Hello everyone, my name is Shambhavi. Hope you all are doing well. Now today we are going to see about the data. In the previous video we had already seen that what we meant from data, right? That what is this data and what we meant from it. Now today we'll be categorizing the data into particular two parts. Till now we had only understood one single term, that is data, right? Now today we'll be further categorizing it into the two forms and then dealing with this particular thing. So the first thing that I would be describing here is qualitative data. Qualitative data. And the second one basically which we have here is quantitative. So these are the two types of data actually which we are having. This qualitative and quantitative is basically subcategorized, but that will be not discussing right now in this particular video. Right now we'll be discussing about the qualitative and the quantitative. Only and only these two terms. In previous video, actually once I had taken the name for both of these names. I had just taken out both of these names actually in one of my previous videos, that was qualitative and quantitative. There I told you that we'll be discussing about both of them detailed in this further video. So here is a particular video in which we'll be discussing about the qualitative and quantitative. Let's not waste too much of time in this discussion. Let's get started. Okay, let's see about that what we just meant from qualitative data first of all. Okay, let's see that what we meant from qualitative data. So the data, okay, I would just write out the definition as well here. So the of categorizing, categorizing, okay, Gorizing, fine. So the results of categorizing attributes of a population. Categorizing, or we can just give it as another name, or describing as well we can just say out, okay, or describing, fine. The result of categorizing or describing attributes of a population, that is attributes of let me come down and write it out here, attributes of a population. So qualitative data is the result of categorizing or describing attributes of a population. Now, what are the examples that comes in the qualitative? Let's say I just talk about a person. Okay. The hair color of a person, the blood group of that person, what is the blood type, what is the car that person is driving, and basically what is the street, what is the place where that person lives. These are all the examples of the qualitative data. Okay, so qualitative data is a kind of data which is actually described by the characters, by the words or by the letters. In the previous video, we had discussed about the numerical and the categorical, remember? So what was numerical doing? Categorical. Categorical were the data which was having characters. That categorical data was always having characters. Same thing in the qualitative as well. So the qualitative data is generally described by having the words or letters. So wherever you just find out words or letters in any particular data, you would quickly call that, okay, this is basically a qualitative data. Fine. Now, when I mentioned that the hair color, the blood type, basically the car a person is driving, the street a person lives in, these are all the examples qualitative data. So what are these all having? These are all having the answers in the form of words or characters. If I talk about hair color, so hair color can be black, it can be dark brown, light brown, and blonde, gray, whatever it can be actually, right? What could be the blood type? Blood type can be AB plus, O negative, B positive, whatever it can be, right? In the terms it can be. So this is what is called as a qualitative data. Hope you just got the definition for the qualitative data. Fine. Now let's talk about the quantitative data, that what we just want. Even like from the word only, you can just see quantitative. Quantitative is actually having a word which is quantity, and quantity is always measured in the number. So the data, the results of basically the data which are in the counting or measuring of something, that is actually a quantitative data. So I would just write that definition here. The results of counting, or measuring. The results of counting or measuring the attributes of a population. So are the attributes of a population. So whenever we just talk about counting or measuring something, so in that case quantitative comes. Even from the quantitative, if you separate out both of these words, that is quantity and tative. So quantity is basically something which is always in numbers. Quantity is something which we measure, right? That is something which we count. Like let's say I say that I'm having 10 number of pens. 10 pens I'm having. So what is that? The quantity for that pen is 10, and that will always be in the numerical only, right? So which is that is what we call as quantitative data. When I talk about qualitative, so qualitative is actually having two words, quality and the tative. So quality is what? Quality is always described in terms, right? If I say that you are having black here, so what are the quality of hair you are having? That is the black color, right? So that is always described in the categorical, that is in the characters or in the words only. So from this particular thing, you can actually define that qualitative data is actually having the quality, and quality is always described in the words, and quantitative data is actually having the quantity, and quantity is always described in the numbers, right? So these are the two things. Example for quantitative: amount of money, pulse rate, weight, number of people living in your house, right? These are all the examples which you are having of the quantitative data, because these are the things which can be measured, which is having some quantity. If I talk about amount of money, so that is some quantity which you are having, this particular amount of money. If I'm talking about weight, so what is a particular weight which you are, what is your weight actually? So that is as well some quantity which we are having, right? Hope you just got out the very much clear data regarding the qualitative and quantitative. Now, the quantitative data is further described as discrete or continuous. So, quantitative is basically dealing with the numbers, right? So, that is further described in the discrete or continuous, but that will be seen in the next video. Fine. So, hope you just first of all got out the very much clear difference, because this is the place where people lack a little bit. They are not like able to clarify about the qualitative or quantitative in a proper way. So, hope you just got out the idea that how you can remember what is qualitative, what is quantitative, and what are the particular definitions for both of these particular words. We are having subcategories which are basically discrete or continuous. So let's discuss about that discrete or continuous today. So that discrete and continuous come into the quantitative. Qualitative one does not have, basically do not have any of the subcategories, but yeah, quantitative one actually has subcategories into it. Let me take out a color here, and I would just write here uh, quantitative. Okay, and two subcategories. First one is basically my discrete, and second one is basically my continuous. Okay, so these are the two subcategories which we are actually having out. Right, now let's see that basically what are discrete and what are continuous. So basically what are the data are the result of counting, that are called as quantitative discrete data. Let me write out all data that are result of counting, all the data that are result of counting are called let me write that, are called that is quantitative discrete data. Okay, that is quantitative discrete. So here goes the discrete data. Fine, this is what the quantitative discrete data is. So all the data that are the results of counting are actually called out the quantitative discrete data. Now let's see some examples of the data. Like we can just take out the example that the data that contains some numerical values. Let's say you just count out the number of phone calls you receive for each day of a week. Okay, let's say you just want to count out the like the phone calls which you received out for each day of a week. Okay, so that can be you can just have let's say either 1, 2, 3, or even you can just have 0 calls as well, right? So that is the data which is the result of counting, right? So as I just told you the example, let me just repeat that example once again. So let's say you count out the number of phone calls which you are getting in a particular day. right? So that phone, yeah, each day of a week. So that phone calls which you are actually having out here, this is an example of a discrete data. Fine, got the idea. Now let's see about the basically continuous one. So I will just write here the definition. All data that are all data that are the result of measuring all data that are the result of measuring are called as quantitative continuous data are called as quantitative continuous data. Fine. So this is the continuous data, that all data that are result of measuring are called as quantitative continuous data. Fine. So example we can just say that let's say just want to measure out the angle in the radians. So that can be pi by 3, pi by 6, pi by 2, pi 3, pi by 4, whatever it can be, right? So that is basically a continuous type of data, right? That is a quantitative continuous data, right? Okay. So this was about the qualitative discrete data and the quantitative discrete data and quantitative continuous data, right? These were the two terms that we were discussing all out. Okay, let me just give an example for the continuous one. One more, that let's say you and your friends are having the carry backpacks, okay, and basically inside that you are having the books for the school. So number of books which are actually in that backpacks are the discrete one, okay, and the weight of that particular bag is the continuous, right? So discrete one is basically a count and continuous one is basically the measuring. So when I just took out the example for total number of books which you're having into the backpack, so that is a count, right? So that is actually the discrete data, because discrete is basically wherever we just put out the count one, that is the discrete. But what about the continuous? So when I just talk about a weight of that particular backpack, so that is my continuous data. So in that basically I'm just measuring out something, so that is actually the continuous. Great, hope it has got the idea regarding this quantitative discrete data and quantitative continuous data, right? So hope you are just very much clear regarding this two subfields of the quantitative data. Now in the next video we'll be starting out some new topic, right? So this is all for this video. Till then, thank you and take care.